When you look at the people who are doing the things that you want to do, who have achieved the things that you want to achieve, what exactly do you think about? Do you look at the guy in the gym who's 10 times as jacked as you are and brush that off by saying, oh, well, he's probably on steroids? Or do you look at the guy who's running a multi-million-dollar business and brush that off by saying, oh, well, he probably just got lucky, or, oh, he grew up rich? And if you do, I don't blame you. All those things are things that could be true. That bodybuilder could be on steroids and that business owner could have inherited more money than most people will ever see in their entire life. But what if those things aren't true? What if that bodybuilder has built his physique 100% naturally and that entrepreneur grew up dead broke? What then? What reasons would you possibly be able to come up with for why you're not doing exactly what they're doing? And you might be able to pretend like you have no idea how those people got to where they are, but deep down you know exactly how they did. You know that bodybuilder got to where he is and looks the way he does because he trained hard for many years, kept a clean diet, was disciplined, and so on. And the guy who runs a multi-million-dollar business, again, you probably understand on some level that it started with an idea, tons and tons of work, tons and tons of failures until it finally paid off. But the mistake that 99% of people make when they look at people like this, the people who have built the top 1% body, the top 1% business, is that they think, why them instead of why not me? In other words, they think of all the things that make them different from those people rather than thinking of the things that make them similar. And again, if you've done this before, I don't blame you. I've done this a lot as well because obviously there is going to be some glaring differences between you and these people, probably a lot of them. But before you start analyzing these differences, which we're going to do today, you have to approach it with the mindset of, okay, they are human, I am human, and the only thing that is stopping me from doing what they are doing is myself. And the reason this is so important is because in order to benefit from understanding these differences, you have to understand that you have the ability to turn them into similarities. All these traits, all these characteristics that make winners winners, you can develop if you make it a priority. But I want you to pause for a second and think about one person, maybe even two or three, that represents who you want to be and what you want to do. Maybe it's an athlete, an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, anybody who represents what success means to you. And take some time to think about this if you have to. I mean, don't just pick someone because they're rich and famous. I mean, really think about a person or people who have walked a path that you want to follow, or just maybe they live their life in a way that you want to live yours. And this is important because your version of success is going to be way different than the next person. So I want you to keep that person in mind so you can view what I'm going to say from a lens that is specific to you, no one else. But the first big reason why you're not winning yet is because you want to win, but you don't need to. And listen, this is something that has taken me almost my entire life up to this point to fully understand, but when you really think about it, it seems almost obvious. And if you're not sure what I mean by needing to win instead of wanting to, just imagine this. Imagine two people who both have the same goal of becoming a professional basketball player in the NBA. Let's call them Chris and Michael. Chris knows that if he wasn't able to make it happen, if he wasn't able to make it to the NBA, he has some other job opportunities lined up outside of basketball that he can fall back on if he doesn't make it. So if he were to play through college and not get drafted to the NBA, it wouldn't be the end of the world because he has those other things to fall back on, in case of emergency. But Michael does not operate like that. He cannot operate like that. In his mind, making it to the NBA is the only option. Maybe it's just because he thinks this is the only way to help his family out financially, or maybe he just wouldn't accept a life that does not involve him playing professional basketball in the NBA. Whatever the reason may be, there is no plan B for Michael. He's going to achieve this goal or he is going to die trying. And just understanding this alone, talent levels aside, who are you going to bet on to make it to the NBA? Obviously, it's going to be Michael, the guy who's burned the boats, has his eyes on one thing and one thing only, and has no other option but to get there. This is the kind of attitude you need when you're working towards whatever you're trying to achieve. Wanting it is not enough. It never will be. You have to need it. And if you're not sure exactly what that is, like what your long-term vision for yourself is, I've got something for you. You can pause the video and do this now, or you can wait till the video is over, but grab a piece of paper or a notebook and write down the worst possible life you can imagine for yourself in 5 to 10 years. What do you look like? How do you feel? Where are you living? How much money are you making and how are you making it? Get extremely specific. And once you've fleshed this out, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to sprint in the opposite direction. And if, working a 9-to-5 job as a single man, living in an absolute shithole is the bane of your existence like it is mine, trust me, you're going to start finding ways to make sure that does not happen. But whatever you're doing, you have to understand that in order to win, you have to compete. Everything in life is a competition. I don't care what anybody says. And until you understand that, you're going to get absolutely blown away by the people that do. I've actually heard a lot of people say that you should not compete with others, but every single time I hear someone say this, it always seems like they confuse competing with comparing. I think it is true that you should not compare yourself to others, but not competing with others, I think that's bullshit. The world thrives on competition. It's what drives people to improve, to get better. And when you look at all these people who have done nothing in this life but win, they are all competitive as fuck. It does not matter if it's a sport, a board game, whatever it is. Their only goal is to win and to win big. So yes, you do need to be competitive in my opinion, but you also have to understand what competition really is at its core, because there is a wrong and a right way to compete. If you watch any sport today and compare it to what it looked like 100 years ago, it looks like a completely different sport. Teams and athletes from the early 1900s were nowhere near as good as they are now, both from a talent perspective and a schematic perspective. And everybody knows this, but why exactly is this the case? Of course, humans have gotten smarter and more efficient, but the driving force is competition, and it's a specific type of competition. Success in most of these sports comes from creating game plans and building teams that are specifically designed to beat the best. And this is very important because it's very different from trying to be the best, aka trying to replicate what the best teams are doing. The 1990 Detroit Pistons, for example, were a team specifically designed to counter Michael Jordan and the Bulls. They dominated them through sheer physicality, which was something that Jordan and the Bulls had not really seen before. But that's the thing. The Pistons did not want to be just another top team that played like the Bulls. In fact, they wanted to do the complete opposite. Their goal was to be the Bulls' nemesis, their worst nightmare, and it worked. It made them the best team in the NBA for a couple of years, and it won them a couple championships. But of course, the Bulls and Jordan didn't just sit back and let this happen. They adapted, they grew stronger, they evolved their game plan to beat the Pistons. And this is a very important concept to understand, because simply trying to emulate what is working for the best is never going to get you anywhere. You might be able to match up with them, but you're never going to be able to beat them, because at the end of the day, when you copy what they're trying to do, you're just going to become an inferior, watered down version of them. If the Pistons had tried to copy what was working for the Bulls, they never would have been able to beat them. They found weaknesses in how the Bulls played the game and capitalized on them by making them their strengths. Again, everything in life is a competition, so if you want any shot at competing with and beating the people that sit at the top, you have to design your team or your player so that it is built to counter and beat whoever is at the top. You got to think about, like, what is your edge? What advantages can you create for yourself? How can you play the game that they physically cannot? And this can be applied anywhere. Maybe it's just like in business or in sports, or maybe just something like YouTube. You have to move with the goal in mind of not just joining the leaders, but surpassing them. That is what's going to propel you to the top. And once you get there, the cycle continues. Other people on the come up will be trying to do the exact same thing to you, trying to find things that you cannot do, trying to find weaknesses in your game. But this is the essence of competition, and it's what has been driving human evolution for years. But the last thing that I will say that pretty much ties everything together is that you are simply too comfortable, and it's probably not even your fault. You know, maybe you're in school and you're kind of working on this thing on the side that you hope works out, or maybe you're working a job that you don't really like, but you don't necessarily hate either. So it's like you kind of want to quit, but you don't have to. Whatever it is, you're not under enough heat and you're not placing yourself in situations that will require you to figure out whatever you're trying to figure out. You need to place yourself under stress on purpose. And this is what people call tactical stress, which means intentionally placing yourself in do or die situations where the only option is to succeed or metaphorically die. And this circles back to what I was saying earlier about needing to win instead of wanting to, because you cannot fake needing something. You have to throw yourself into the fire and adopt the mentality of I will have this or I will have nothing, because then and only then will you be able to see how powerful you truly are. And you can never forget how incredible the human mind and the human body really are. Like, you are literally hardwired to respond and adapt to stress, both physically and mentally. I mean, like, just think about the gym. If you were trying to get stronger on the bench press, but every single time you came in to do a bench press workout, you did the same amount of weight, same reps, same sets, would you ever expect to get stronger? No. If you wanted to get stronger on the bench press, you would come into the gym with the goal in mind of doing more weight than last time, more reps than last time, more sets than last time. You would need to gradually place more stress on your body, and in doing so, you're basically forcing yourself to adapt and forcing yourself to get stronger. Or think back to a time where you had like a homework assignment due at 11:59 p.m. and maybe it was something your teacher said would take 2 hours minimum to complete, but there you are at 11 p.m. just like freaking the fuck out, wondering how on earth you're going to get this assignment done. But what do? You get it done. You make it work somehow. Some way, somehow you make it work. You make it work because you didn't have time to think about if you wanted to complete the assignment. You needed to complete the assignment, or else you'd get a 0. Do you see what I'm saying? These are the types of situations that you need to place yourself in as much as possible. You cannot get caught floating in the middle where you're not trying to deal with the embarrassment of losing, but you also don't want to deal with the effort that is required to win. That is the worst place to be. Because in the middle, you're okay with living your life at a stalemate, and you're not ever really pushing the boundaries of what you're capable of. And so when you get out of the middle, when you make it a mission to avoid the middle at all costs, it will feel scary, it will feel risky, but that is the price of winning. Because how high you're able to climb in this life is directly related to how far you are willing to fall. But I hope this video flips some switches in your head, and I hope you can take some of these things, or a lot of them, and use them in your own life to take you to wherever you need to be. But as always, feel free to leave any thoughts or questions down in the comments below. I will respond to every single one, but if you made it this far, thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you next time.